What's good? We got some disturbing, somewhat bizarre uh, intel matriculating from the White House. Apparently, the other day, Trump had to have a medical procedure. He had been complaining of severe stomach pain, uh, severe constipation. So, upon examination of X-rays and etc., they determined that he had foreign objects, you know, blocking his digestive system in his stomach and his colon. And like I said, they had to do a emergency invasive procedure, and further examination determined that apparently he's been swallowing anything made of gold. I mean, gold rings, gold watches. They found a golden candlestick holder in his digestive tract, in his colon, and apparently they come to the conclusion that all of these things, there's no way physically possible that he could have swallowed them all. So, yeah. But seriously, uh, they ask him why. You know, Donald, what's going on, man? You can't be doing these things. What is this fixation on gold? Why are you swallowing these foreign objects? And, he says, well, what king worth his weight can't shit pure gold? I bullshit you not. So, I joke from time to time about dude's cognitive abilities, which he claims are top notch. He's taken more tests than any other president, cognitive tests. Any other president in the history of America. I don't know whether that's a positive or negative. But obviously, I mean, based on, some of his commentary, for instance, he says he's figured out the cure for cancer, and it's diet soda. Apparently, he was in the backyard with his binky, and he was pouring his diet soda in the grass died. And he says, well, by default, if diet soda kills grass, it has to kill cancer cells. He is low-key a genius, if you think about it. Don't think about it too hard. But all bullshit aside, the cries for invoking the 25th Amendment are growing louder, and they are coming from within his own administration. Now, I would joke from time to time that they just wheel him into the situation room and, put him over in a corner with his binky and maybe a etch a sketch, and they let him do his thing while they, delve through, But apparently, like, really, I'm serious this time. They do not allow Trump into the situation room these days. Now, this is coming out of his administration. They say that they exclude him from any, you know, consultation. He's not even allowed in the situation room. Discussions of diplomacy, how to, strategy regarding this Iran conflict, a war. That's what it is. Or genocide, take your pick. But they are excluding him. They don't even want his input. They actually don't even want him in the vicinity of, so they'll put him in front of a screen and let him watch images of, our military blowing up shit in Iran, and he really think, no, really, they really do this. They'll give him 2 minute, uh, you know, 2 minute footage, 30-second footage of us bombing Iran, and he really thinks that we are winning a war based on the footage that they, it's like putting a toddler in front of the TV so he can watch cartoons. And this is no bullshit. But they are not letting him have any real input on discussions, anything that's of importance. So that's where we are now. They say that his cognitive ability actually is not top tier. They say he fluctuates between being irate. He's walking around the White House, irate, berating staff members, and some times being violent, as throwing things, cursing people out. And they say his mood swings to the extreme opposite end of the spectrum, where he's, you know, walking around with his chest out saying he's the greatest president that ever served office. So he's like on an emotional and psychological roller coaster at this time. And they say they do not trust his judgment. Okay. It's about time y'all caught on. But so, like, literally, they try to keep him out, out of any type of litigation, or however you want to put it. So this country is cooked, man. We so cooked right now. I mean, extra crispy, overcooked. There's also intel coming out in regard to the former administration, Biden. They say that the last year and a half of Biden's administration, they mostly spent trying to cover up the fact that he was obviously in onset, dementia. And although it had became apparent by the end of his term, but they're trying to keep it under wraps for obvious reasons, and you know what? It makes sense that Trump had dementia when he was elected this final term. I mean, he walked into the office, the Oval Office, with dementia. And this, not to make light of it, I have family members who have dealt with dementia, are dealing with dementia. And depending on the type of personality you're dealing with, it can be hectic. But from what I understand, Trump being, his psychopathy being what it is dangerous right now. They saying that he wants to replace his whole administration. He's trying to decide between Fraggle Rock and the Muppets. We are literally about to be run by a puppet regime. Literally. That's where we are as a country right now. So, yeah, we cooked. We're cooked. So, I've said that he belongs in an institution, but I would say these things tongue in cheek. But as it turns out, dude literally belongs in an institution. We cooked. No ops left Scano. You already know.